Johnson, Steve Watson, Aaron Dykes have probably written more than 20, 30 articles the last few months collectively on the FCC, all the other federal agencies. They are openly saying no free speech in America. I mean, actually saying they're going to tax you and make you on radio, on TV, and the internet give equal time and place their messages on your radio station. This isn't going to be just, quote, equal time, you decide who you give equal time to. This is going to be government programming, a, quote, government megaphone. And they'll start slow with it, just to get their nose under the tent flap. You've got to say no to this now. Now, here's the Washington Times. And this was put out by the Washington Times. That means no writer. This is the editorial page of the newspaper saying this. And again, this is not their opinion. I have read over all of this. It's worse than what I'm about to read. The Federal Trade Commission is seeking ways to reinvent journalism. That's a quote. We've linked to the big, thick, they're going to reinvent it. Government. And they say the internet is destroying mainstream newspapers and TV. Yeah, no one wants to believe CNN or MSNBC. No one. Chris Matthews has like 500,000 viewers. The top show on CNN has 1 million. Ladies and gentlemen, this Sunday radio show is on over 40 radio stations. Conservatively over 500,000 just on AM and FM. #1 on the internet. Hundreds of thousands tuning in over the 2 hours on the internet. Hundreds of thousands later listening to the podcast. Over 200,000 a day downloaded. The weekday show is getting near to 80 stations right now. Okay, I mean, I can't even believe I have over 1 million listeners a day, at least 2 million a week. People say, well, if it's a week, you should have 5 million. No, that's not how it works. You have regular listeners and then straggler groups, but it comes out to about 2 million AM and FM listeners and then another 1 million or so that listen to podcasts and the rest of it. The point is, I mean, of course the egomaniacs in mainstream media don't like Alex Jones here just annihilating them. You think Bill Gates likes getting up and going to the biggest news website out there, the Drudge Report, every week and reading Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com articles? I mean, you think they like the fact that I'm mainstream? That I have forced myself into the mainstream by proving everything I say? No, they want to shut us down. They can't play on a level playing field. It'd be like a football game where the other team isn't even allowed to field one player against the other 11. That's the mainstream whore media. Oh, you're laughing saying you just don't read the newspaper anymore or you don't tune in to Chris Matthews? Well, he doesn't care. He's just going to shut you down with government power. You're going to watch him. He's going to tell you it's racist to not want to have government health care. He's going to tell you Rand Paul's evil. He's got a special coming out the 16th about myself and Rand Paul, an hour-long demonization piece. They're scared. They can't laugh anymore about the Bilderberg Group, can they? No, now it's world government's now openly being discussed. The Federal Trade Commission, not just the FCC, seeking ways to, quote, reinvent journalism, and that's a cause for concern. According to a May 24th draft proposal, this is a proposal. The agency thinks government should be at the center of a media overhaul. Oh, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or the press, or the people's right to peaceably assemble, or petition the government for redress of grievance. The government isn't supposed to be in religion. 55 years ago, they took over all the churches. With 501c3, they're not supposed to be able to make a law. They're going to take the press over. Do you understand? And I'll be here in 10 years, I guess with a private newsletter saying, see, it happened, see, it happened. And mainstream media controlled government will be like, yes, the First Amendment does not say you have a right to speech. It means you have a right to government certification. I'm about to define it. I'm sorry I'm ranting, folks. This is just the total Soviet Union. Okay, this is Nazi Germany. This is this is Hugo Chavez on steroids. This is Fidel Castro. Oh. It goes on, the bureaucracy sees it as a problem that the internet has introduced a wealth of information options to consumers, forcing media companies to adapt and experiment to meet challenging market needs. The FTC's policy staff fears this new reality. Quote, there are reasons for concern. This is from the Federal Trade Commission. This is the Commerce Clause, just like they took over health care with the Commerce Clause. They're going to take over everything under the Commerce Clause. Of course, they have no right to do it. They don't care. There are reasons for concern that experimentation may not produce a robust and sustainable business model for commercial journalism, the report states. With no faith that the market will work there, things out for the better, government thinks it must come in to the rescue with a bailout to mainstream media. Your money and the end of your free speech. You're going to pay to be gagged. The ideas being batted around to save the industry share a common theme. They are designed to empower bureaucrats, not consumers, for instance. One proposal would allow news organizations to agree jointly on a mechanism to require news aggregators and others to pay for the use of online content, perhaps through the use of copyright licenses. And the article's titled, FTC floats a drudge tax. Journalism can't reinvent itself without government help. And they're saying that and this is what the industry's already proposed. This is what Cass Sunstein wants. This is what the New York Times promoted 6 months ago, was a kindler, gentler internet where if I link to an article, which is doing them a favor, by the way, and if Drudge links to an article, you're going to pay them for the right to do that. But that's nothing. That's nothing. As if we want to link to your crud anyways. All the articles that get read are the ones we write. We'll go see a piece of legislation, we'll write about it and give the subsections, and it'll get 500,000 viewers. We can write the article in an hour. How are you lazy mainline reporters that just repeat what the government tells you ever going to compete with real journalists, with real muckrakers? You can't, so you want to shut us up. You're pathetic. It goes on. In other words, government policy would encourage tax on websites like the Drudge Report, a must-read source for news links of the day, so that the agency can redistribute the funds collected to various newspapers. Such a tax would hit other news aggregators such as Dig, Fark, Reddit, which not only gather links but provide a forum for lively, entertaining discussion. Oh, my God, how dare you link to something and say, go read it and then comment here, of the issues raised by the stories, fostering a robust public policy debate, not saving a particular business model, should be the goal of journalism in the first place. But then it gets 100 times worse. These articles always start with the low-level stuff first. The report also discusses the possibility of offering tax exemptions to news organizations, establishing an AmeriCorps for reporters. That's already passed, folks. They've already passed a bill, and it's also in the Cybersecurity Act. They haven't passed, but it's on the verge of it, where all high schoolers, remember the White House Chief of Staff on C-SPAN said you will be forced to serve every year for 2 years after high school and in high school for the government domestically, and you will go to a boot camp. And then they now tell you it's going to be writing government propaganda that is then forced on our websites in government pop-ups that are put in over your server through your ISP. I mean, this is just so unbelievable. I mean, not even China goes this far. The report also discusses the possibility of offering tax exemptions to news organizations, establishing an AmeriCorps for reporters, and creating a national fund for local news organizations. The money for those benefits would come from a suite of new taxes. What did Cass Sunstein talk about a year ago? White House regulations are a 5% tax on consumer electronic devices such as iPads and Kindles. That's already introduced. You're going to pay to have any internet access, and then it's given to select mainline government whore media prostitutes. The money for those benefits, see, because it's a free market, folks. People won't buy mainstream garbage media anymore, so the government's going to fund it. They're already doing it with product placement, behavior placement, propaganda placement. The money for those benefits would come from a suite of new taxes. A 5% tax on consumer electronic devices such as iPads, Kindles, and laptops that let consumers read the news without being used to encourage people to keep reading the dead tree version of the news. Other taxes be levied on radio and television spectrum, advertising, and cell phones. Get ready, and then they'll give it to who they want. I'm going to finish up when we get back and then take your phone calls. I'm getting angry.